Hi guys, Mattix2 back here today, and I'm back with a brand new video.
Huge stack, huge stack.
This is going to be a video response to Atlaz over at Cine Art Therapy. I will leave his link down below. He's created a fantastic community video in where you talk about films that remade you, so films that deeply affected you or changed your life or anything like that. You know, films that hit you so hard that they stay in your memory and they evoke such a strong feeling. At least that's how I interpreted it. So yeah, so we've got 10 films here. They're going to be in no particular order. There's no real rhyme or reason as to where they're positioned. So we're just going to go through each film and I'll tell you my reasons why. So coming in at number one, this is a film that I watched originally around 10 years ago. I rewatched it a few days ago just to make sure it still gave me those same feelings that I felt back then. And I thought it would, but I just wanted to make sure. And it certainly did. That is a film called What Dreams May Come. Film starring Robin Williams and Cuba Gooding Jr. A fantastic film. It's not one of the best films in the world, but the reason why it's on this list. So I've been with my wife since I was 15. We've been together 17 years at this point, married for 12. And I really just can't imagine ever losing her. I'm not a religious guy in any respect. I do have a strong hope and belief that there is something after, because I just can't imagine ever losing that connection with my wife. I've drifted back and forth between, you know, whether reincarnation is a thing, and it's something I would love to believe in. But it's something that, you know, this film hits me so hard. So it's essentially about a film where Robin Williams goes into the afterlife and he's lost a lot. And it's a film about, you know, really struggling to try and find your way back to your loved ones. And that for me just connects and hits me quite hard. As I say, it's something that I can't ever imagine. It's something that I never want to happen, and it's something that is going to happen. It's inevitable. It's something that comes to all of us, and I don't know. It just invokes such a strong feeling for me. Compiled on top of that is the fact that obviously Robin Williams passed away, sadly. This film deals with unaliving of a certain character, and obviously with Robin Williams passing in the way that he passed, it deals with certain subjects around that. Robin Williams is one of my favourite actors and people of all time. He was such a fantastic person and a real role model for the world. I think he's just such a beautiful soul, and you know the way in which he died and the way he was suffering. It's such a horrible subject, and rewatching this, it just hit me so much harder again. So there's two different aspects to why this film hits me so hard and why it's remade me, and it really makes me think and feel not necessarily things that I want to feel, but important questions that I need to ask myself. And you know, going forward in my life, you know, it's something inspiring almost, and it's not the greatest film in the world. It's visually beautiful. It's one of the best looking films that I've ever seen. But it's just such an emotional journey into the afterlife, and a film about life in general. It's such a beautiful film, and I really highly recommend it. That is What Dreams May Come. Next film up here is one of my all-time favourite films. It's been ranked at number one for quite some time. I do need to reevaluate that list, but I still think this probably sits at number one, and that film is The Road. As I say, one of my all-time favourite films. The story behind this one is that I originally watched this with my dad. Now, if you don't know about the story, it's about a father and son travelling through the post-apocalyptic world on a journey to, you know, sort of teach the kid how to survive without him. And it's a film that I've had people over the years tell me, how can you know, find that film to be your favourite film of all time, and it's such a hard watch and it's so depressing, and I understand that. But I sort of see past the post-apocalyptic setting, and it's the core of the story is really a father and son, and you know, sort of the passing of the torch. So I originally watched this with my dad for the first time, probably 10, 15 years ago at this point now. I'm not sure how old the film is, but it was around that time. I know it was just after it was released. And it was just such a vivid memory of me watching this with my dad. The story is about a father and son, you know, and sort of the passing of the torch. And around that time, I was sort of getting ready to leave home, and so it really hit me with that sense of, you know, what this film is portraying is almost what my life is entailing at the moment. Is sort of passing the torch to me and say, look, son, you're going off to this whole new world without me, and you know, it really is sort of a passing of the torch. But the other thing this film really gets at me is the other thing that really gets me with this film is the hope, and it is such a depressing and post-apocalyptic and horrible world where there's murders and rapes and really horrible stuff, but there's so much hope in it at the same time. There's the ending of the film, which is spoilers coming up here. The ending of the film is the father passing away and the son being left on the beach, and a random family just comes along and takes the son under their wing, and he goes off with them quite willingly in the end. But yeah, it's such a fantastic film. It gives me so much hope for the world that no matter how bad things get, there's still going to be humanity out there and good people. So yeah, that's my second pick. That is The Road. So my next pick is one that I watched again a few weeks ago, and it invoked the same sort of feelings it did when I first originally watched it. I originally watched this on YouTube, of all places, because you just couldn't get this film on a physical release for a number of years. Criterion finally came through and released it, and that film is Come and See. This is a harrowing film. I've watched a lot of World War II documentaries over the years. I've seen a number of the real atrocities that happened, and this film probably portrays war and the worst of humanity that I think's ever been depicted on film. It is such a harrowing film, and it is rightly so, because it seems to me like it's one of the most realistic depictions of war that I could imagine. I've never been in that setting. I've never served, so of course I don't understand completely. But from what I've seen from over the years, all the documentaries, all of the archive footage and stuff like that, this seems like the most realistic depiction. The reason it's in this list is because it obviously invokes such a feeling of dread and of destruction, and as I say, the worst of humanity. But in this film, there's sprinklings of humanity. There's a certain scene where the boy is trying to escape the incoming forces, and there's an old man that just says, "Look, you're my grandson. Come with me. You can stay at my house." And even though that doesn't work out, it just the fact that this old man was willing to give up potentially his life just to risk it all for this little kid that he didn't know. He didn't have to do anything, but he decided to take this kid in. Again, it just shows that there's, no matter how bad the world gets, there's still glimmers of humanity there, and that's why this invokes such a feeling for me. It's not always about the depravity and the sort of destruction that people can do. It's sometimes just about the good that people can do. And despite this film's really hard subject matter and the fact that it's still relevant to this day, of course, with everything going on in the world right now, there's still signs of humanity there, and that's the reason this invokes such a feeling for me. So that is Come and See. So next up, we've got a film by David Lynch. That film is The Straight Story. So I originally watched this probably 10 years ago, something like that. It had a profound effect on me then. So the plot is about a guy that travels across the country on a lawnmower to go and see his brother, who's not in a well state. So the main character, Alvin, he's quite an elderly guy himself, in his 70s, and he's got his own health problems, and he gets a phone call to say that his brother's ill. They had a bit of a falling out some years before that, quite a few years before that, and they hadn't spoke since. And this is about this guy's journey of going to see his brother to try and make amends before it's too late. And the reason this film invokes such a feeling for me is, it didn't back then when I first watched it, and there was other reasons for me loving this film then, but since then, my best friend, who was my best friend for a few years, he sadly passed away. He was only 26, he died in a motorbike accident. And there's things that I would have said to him had I have known what was going to happen. It really broke me, and watching this film again a year or two after he passed away, it resonated with me differently, because I wish I'd have had that chance to say like what I wanted to say to him. He died at such a young age, it wasn't expected. I never had that chance that Alvin in this story gets to go and see his brother. So the real message for this film is, never leave it too late. If you fall out with someone, and you love that person, don't leave it. You just never know when your time's up. And you don't want to be leaving this world, or you don't want somebody else to leave this world with those feelings of with hate and of regret. Leave it with love. That's what I get from this film, and that's why this is one of my favourite films of all time, and why it's on this list. So that is The Straight Story. So the next film up is again another. This is almost the same kind of. So this is almost the same kind of story behind it as was with What Dreams May Come. Slightly different, this one. So there will be spoilers in this little bit of video. That film is Be With You. So this is a story about a father and his son who are surviving after the loss of the mother and wife in the film. So the reason this invokes such a strong feeling for me is because it's a situation that I never want to be in. This film just portrays it so beautifully. So the spoiler in this is that the mother actually comes back to life for a certain period of time. She wrote a book for her son, and through this book she comes back. So it's quite a magical, sort of mythical tale as such. But it's just so beautifully done. And as I say, I kind of have inclinations to reincarnation. I feel like that's something that I would love to believe in. And this film reaffirms that kind of. And as I say, I'm not religious in that sense, but this makes me want to believe that. And I think there's such a beauty in reincarnation, the fact that because your body is just a shell, but what's inside and the love that carries over, I just want to believe that stuff carries over. And this film portrays that beautifully. It's such a beautiful depiction of life and of love, and those are the things that mean the most to me. I'm a really strong believer in love, and I think it's the most powerful thing in the world. So this film portrays it in such a beautiful way that it hits me I've watched it twice at this point. I watched it by myself, cried my eyes out. Watched it with my wife, cried my eyes out. So I've watched this twice already, and I've only seen this for the first time this year. But as I say, this just invokes such a feeling in me that it just couldn't not be in this list. So that is Be With You. So next up, we've got a film called Birthday, and now this is a Korean film. So this film is about the Sewol incident that happened a few years ago, where a ferry sank in South Korea, and a lot of people died. And it is about the father and mother trying to not reconnect, but trying to get, sort of gain closure over the death of their son. And again, this evokes such a strong feeling for me as a father, because I just can't ever imagine what that would feel like. And this film kind of gives me that notion of what it would be like. And even though I don't want to ever feel those feelings, this film just is so beautifully done. And as I say, as a father, you just can't ever imagine being in that situation, or it could never happen to you, but of course it can, and I hope to God that never happens. And I think the reason this gives me such strong emotions to this film, and of course it would to anybody, whether it be a parent or not, but I think the reason it gives me such strong feelings is that you should never take your family life for granted, or your loved ones for granted. It harkens back to a lot of the films that I've already mentioned, but you should never take what you've got for granted. And I think this is why this film's so powerful to me. It's such a beautiful film. I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. That film is called Birthday. So the next film up is going to be a film that I don't actually own. So the next 4 films I don't actually own. So I'm going to pop a poster up of each film. The next film is Disney's Up. Again, this kind of harkens back to a lot of the things that I've already said. But the opening scenes of this film really affected me, and throughout the film as well. So I'm sure you all know the plot already, but it's essentially about an old man that loses his wife of a long time, and he's sort of left by himself. So this film has got quite a few things that hit home. So first of all, I can't ever imagine being without my wife. As I said, I've said many times throughout this video already, we've been together for 17 years. I can't ever imagine a life without her. So to be in the position that the old man is when his wife passes, I just can't ever imagine the feeling that will ever entail, and I hope it never does. Of course it will. I'm a realist, and it's Sorry, getting a bit choked up there. I can't ever imagine being without my wife, and to know that maybe one day I will. I can't imagine ever being anything other than hateful because I can't ever imagine losing her and not being with her. I can't imagine me being with anybody else other than my wife, or loving anybody else other than my wife the way in which I do. She is my soulmate. We're twin flames, and as I say, I just can't imagine being with anybody else. So that's why that film hits me so hard, I think. And yeah, it's just such a beautiful film and one of Pixar's best. I think it's Pixar. Pretty sure it's Pixar. But yeah, that's my next choice, and that was Up. So my next choice would be the film by Roman Polanski, and that film is The Pianist. So this kind of has similar meanings to Come and See. Again, about a Jewish man that is forced to flee his home, go into a ghetto, and try and eventually escape capture from the Nazis. It's a film that again invokes another really strong memory for me. So I originally watched I don't know if you've seen it, so this might be a slight spoiler, but there's a scene in the film where Adrian Brody's character is walking along a wall and he sees a little boy trying to struggle to get under a wall, trying to bring food into the ghetto or get food out. I can't remember which. I think he was trying to get food in, and all of a sudden you just hear this little boy screaming, and the Nazis on the other side of the wall are just trying to pull him through, and even trying to pull him through, they're breaking his back, and you can just see this little kid just so desperate, just trying to escape. And it's such one of the most poignant scenes that I've ever seen in a film, and it's stuck with me ever since. I watched that in history in high school, and I later rewatched the film on my own, and the film just invokes such a feeling of helplessness, but in the end also hope. So there's a Nazi, I can't remember what he was, his general or something like that, that ends up hiding him and helping him in the end. And again, it's just another film that shows humanity and the worst of humanity at the same time. So it really gives you, the whole aspect of, what's right, what's wrong, and of course everything, the atrocities were all wrong, but there were still people trying to do good. And that film really shows that, and it's one of the reasons why I love that film, and one of the reasons why it's on this list. So that is The Pianist. So the next film up is another film with Robin Williams. Played X2 actually put this one on his list as well, and this film really means a lot to me, and that film is Patch Adams, again starring Robin Williams. A fantastic film. Again, it's kind of the best of humanity. So this film is about trying to heal people with laughter, and that's one of the things Robin Williams did for the world, I feel. Every single one of his films, for the most part, he brought happiness into people's lives, and no matter who you speak to, whether they like Robin Williams or not, I've never heard a bad word said about Robin Williams, and that's one of the reasons that I love him, because he spent his whole life, no matter how much fame he got and how much money he got, he spent his whole life just being humble and wanting to help people, and that's something I aspire to, and I try to do that in my daily life. I try to be something that Robin Williams would be proud of. I've never been affected by somebody outside of my family or friends that has affected me when they've passed away, and Robin Williams was the only one of those. It really did affect me, and I spent a good number of years not being able to watch his films, and it's only been sort of the past couple of years where I've started to revisit stuff, and I just couldn't face it, to be honest, because he was such a strong character in my life and such a strong human, that it really made it difficult to watch his films, I feel, and even though I should, because his life should be celebrated, and he's created so many memories for so many people across the world. That's one of the reasons why I had to get that autograph. Is something that he's touched, and it's just something really special to me. So that's why Patch Adams in this list, is because it's again another film where humanity wins, I feel. So yeah, that's Patch Adams. And the last film on this list is a film called American History X. I'll put the poster up here. So again, another sort of worst of humanity meeting the best of humanity, I feel. So this film is about a very lost man who is you know, a neo-Nazi, and he doesn't believe in, you know, his whole world is clouded by hate. And there's scenes throughout this film where, you know, it's really difficult to watch. The curb scene, for example, is just so horrible and visceral, and it's such a hard watch. But then you see him grow throughout the film and become enlightened, I feel, and it's just such an important film that so many people should watch. It's such a powerful film that I really feel like it can change people's minds and people's mindset. People are people, and there are shit people and there are good people, but even shit people can be good. Good people can be shit. You know, it really is a mixed bag. Humanity is such a vast array of people. You know, there's good in everyone, there's bad in everyone. This film, I think, shows that people can change and people will change. They just need to stop watching the news. But yeah, I absolutely love this film, and as I say, it's one of the reasons it's still on the list is just because I think it has the power to change people, and that's why it's on my list. So that's my final list. That's my 10 films that changed me. So thank you so much for Atlaz for doing this fantastic community video challenge. I will leave his link down below. Make sure you go and check him out. He's a fantastic guy. He's really starting to ramp up in subscribers now, thankfully. So if we can get a few more over there from my channel, that'd be fantastic. So thank you all so much for watching. Thank you for subscribing. Please comment and like down below, and I will see you all in the next one. Goodbye.
Step.